Hello, my name is Fernando from Udacity, and we're going to interview Paulo Faria from Brazil. Paulo, could you please introduce yourself to our students?
My name is Paulo. I'm from Brazil. I'm the founder of Zivo. It's an open source organization, and we're doing server-side Swift, which is awesome. And that's probably it.
Okay, and how do you get started as an iOS or Swift developer?
I think it was 2014 that Apple announced Swift. And then I started working with Swift, and it was amazing. Got very excited about it.
What do you think is most exciting about Swift? What you really like about the language?
The language is very expressive. Like, you only have to write what you have to write. You don't have to write stuff because of the language. Like, the language is not verbose or anything. So you can focus on your business logic, and get the language out of the way. Just focus on what you have to focus on.
And as a first language, do you think it makes sense to use Swift if you're just learning to program? Do you think it's a good first language?
Definitely. I think that was thought of from the start because it's a language that's not very different from any other language. It has some similarities with C, which is a very popular language. It's the base for most languages. And they're focusing a lot of stuff for beginners, like playgrounds, and now we have Swift playgrounds on the iPad. And I think they really want even kids to start programming with Swift. So yeah, I think it's one of the best languages for that right now.
And talking about Zivo, could you explain a little bit more what it is? I understand it's a set of frameworks for doing server development or backend development in Swift. Is that correct?
Yes.
And why do you think that Swift is a good option for this specific task? There are other languages that are used for this sort of task, and most of them are dynamic or interpreted languages. What do you think that Swift brings to this?
Well, first of all, the expressiveness of the language that makes the language in general a good language. But also, Swift is very fast. It was made by Chris Lattner, the guy that created LLVM, and the guy knows about performance and those kinds of things. So it's a very good, fast language, and also it's a safe language. The problem, it's not a problem, the difference between a dynamic language, most of the dynamic languages that are today, like Ruby and JavaScript, they're not type safe. So Swift is, and that's a huge win because you can be more certain that your software will work. And of course you need unit tests as well to test the logic itself, but having a type safe language gives you a lot more power in that sense.
So I understand that the appeal of something like Zivo for an iOS developer, if I need a backend for my app, usually have to write it in another language. Now I could use exactly the same language. Is it ready for production? If I wanted to start right now, can I start creating backends with Zivo?
Yeah, you can do. We have a lot of stuff. More than 80 modules, I think. We have pretty much what you need to do basic stuff and some advanced stuff. But the problem right now is not the amount of things that we have. It's all ready, but the problem is that Swift 3 is not ready yet. So the language is still in flux. So it changes quite a bit from every snapshot that we get from the Apple team. And I think it's only going to be ready when Swift 3 is released in this fall, maybe September, October, we don't know yet.
So there are many languages and frameworks for making backends for apps, and I understand the appeal of Zivo in the sense that you don't need to learn a new language. But what else does Swift bring to this kind of application?
First, I mentioned the expressiveness of Swift, and that's a very good thing on its own. But when you compare Swift with other dynamic languages, most of them are not type safe. And Swift is awesome in that sense because you can have code that you know if something is going to work or not on compile time. So that saves you a lot of trouble and makes your code more safe. So you can focus on your business logic and not having to write unit tests to check for something that the compiler can do, you know? Also, it's very fast. It was made by Chris Latner, the guy that created LLVM. So the guy knows about optimization and those kinds of things. The language can even be faster than C sometimes, which is amazing. And when you get all of those things together, the safety, the expressiveness, and the speed, you get like a beautiful language that works anywhere, actually, not only on the back end. That's what makes Swift beautiful, in my opinion.
If you are a beginner iOS developer, you're just starting to learn Swift, do you think it makes sense to learn also how to write backends in Swift with Zero, for example? Is that a skill that you think will be marketable?
Yeah, if you're a beginner, probably it's best you focus on the skill that you want to build. But if you have more skill than just iOS, the market is going to look at you, you know, because they're looking for people that knows to do more than just one stuff. So I think that's a pretty good thing to learn. Even for yourself, if you're not trying to get a job at anything, you want to start a startup, for example, you probably have to do everything. So you're going to have to learn that anyway. So I think, yeah, it's good to learn backend with Swift as well.
Okay, and you have the same language from the client all the way down to the backend.
Yeah, you have less context switches, so you don't have to think, oh, now I have to think Ruby, now I have to think JavaScript. You just get one language that suits pretty much everything.
And how hard do you consider it is moving from iOS to Zero, for example? How's the learning curve?
Yeah, there are a lot of differences because iOS is mostly based on Objective-C stuff that came with Foundation. So people are very used to subclassing and delegate. You could have those things in the backend as well, but those are things that came with Objective-C baggage. And we try to make Zero specifically be very Swifty. So we use different concepts there. They're not that different. They're just with maybe different names. Instead of inheritance, we use composition and some stuff like that. But the basics are the same everywhere. So it's not going to be that hard to switch.
Okay, and Apple is also changing Foundation to make it more Swifty, so
exactly.
In the end,
it's a natural movement, yeah.
Okay, okay. And there are also other frameworks out there competing for the same market, shall we call it. What does Zero have special? What's the strongest point of Zero?
I think the strongest point would be our concurrency model. Actually, Zero is concurrency model agnostic. Sorry, this is a hard word to speak. But yeah, we do have different models. One of them is Grand Central Dispatch that everyone knows from iOS and Mac OS, OS X that now became Mac OS. But we have a different model that's based on Go's concurrency model. That's awesome because one of the main problems about specifically Node.js, for example, is the callback hell.
Yeah, we have that with GCD also.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're on iOS, yeah, you have to use probably RX Swift or something like that to handle the callback problem. On JavaScript, you have promises and future and those kinds of things. But with Go's concurrency model, you don't have to carry about callbacks or anything. You just use your code in a synchronous way, like we're accustomed to reason about. So the code is much cleaner, it's easier to reason about, it's easier to handle errors. So that concurrency model is a very, very strong feature we have. And it's faster than using threads because there's no system calls involved. So it's pretty much everything you need for server-side development.
Paulo, let's move into a little bit of Gossip. I've heard that you had an interview with Chris Lattner, the creator of Swift, yesterday. Could you please tell us something about that?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Actually, it wasn't an interview. It was a get-together hosted at WWDC. Swift get-together. There was like 4 corners, and we could talk about different subjects. And my corner was open source Swift, and Chris Lattner was with me and Ted Kramanak from Apple. We were representing open source, and it was an amazing experience to be able to talk to Apple engineers, and there were people from IBM as well. But the amazing thing was to have a chance to talk to the public. There was a 14-year-old attendee that was awesome. He was very interested in Swift and said, what can I do with it? How could I start? It was very, very exciting to be there.
So do you think that Apple is behind the open source projects that are starting around Swift and Swift in the back end?
Yeah, definitely. Like, this chance was amazing. Like, I don't know if they ever did that before, if they brought people from outside Apple to a WWDC event. And there's also going to be a session Friday specifically about server-side development with Swift. Yeah, and on the description it says that they will show some examples of the community. And that's also something that I never heard about. And I'm very curious about what they're going to show there.
Do you think Ziwa will be featured? Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's
Okay.
that.
We'll have
and
to find
and
out.
I asked Kitura guys from IBM if they knew something, and they don't. So I thought, if it's not Ziwa, if not Kitura, what would it be?
Talking about Kitura, since there's several different options, that could become a little bit confusing. But I've heard that you guys are creating kind of a common standard.
Exactly.
Called
OpenSwift.
OpenSwift. Could you please tell us more about it?
Yeah, OpenSwift is an organization. We're trying to create standards for the server side. Specifically, the best thing about it, you could use, like, you have your application built with Kitura, for example, and then you can use a Zero server or any other organization that wants to build a server. But the best thing, I think, is going to be the middleware. You can write an OpenSwift compliant middleware, and you can use it in any framework. So people won't have to recreate code or stuff like that. And right now, we have Zero that's compliant. Vapor is also compliant. And we have Slimane, which is a Japanese framework. And we also, it was funny because every day we find a new framework. Yesterday I was talking with the IBM guys. They were showing me some stuff about their package manager. Not package manager, package catalog. When you can see all the packages, all Swift package manager packages that are available on GitHub. And then you can see the dependencies, and we were looking at the Zero module, and there was Flamingo there, listed as a dependent that depends on a Zero package. And then what's this Flamingo thing? And then we went there. It's another new web framework that we never heard about.
So if I understand correctly, certain objects that are common to any server-side application, such request, response, those are common to all.
Exactly.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have a lot of common code that can be shared with everybody. We also had a Swift open source get together on Tuesday with IBM folks at Blue Mix Garage. They hosted it. And the most part of the conversations were about finding this common ground so we can just move on and build higher level stuff. And that's what we've been doing with Zwo and OpenSwift. And now we want to get together with everyone. Perfect is also at the OpenSwift initiative. They are doing a bit of refactor, but they plan to adopt OpenSwift as well. If not OpenSwift, whatever comes with, we need the standard, right? So OpenSwift is an initiative, but maybe it can change to something else. Maybe you could become a core library from Apple. That was talked about, yesterday as well. So
perfect. So if I want to start right now with Zwo, where should I go? On GitHub?
Yeah, we have a web page with some documentation. It's zwo.io, and the Slack is slack.zwo.io, and the GitHub is github/Zwo. And we have a main repo that's github/Zwo/Zwo. So if you go in any of those places, you'll be able to start.
Paulo, we have many students all over the world, and currently in Brazil, our student base is growing enormously. Is there anything special you would like to tell our Brazilian students?
Yeah. Pessoal, o open source é muito legal, é viciante. Quando você começa a trabalhar com isso, é uma coisa que realmente inspira mesmo. Então, se vocês têm algum interesse em começar a trabalhar em open source, eu recomendo demais. Assim, é uma vida muito interessante.
So, Paulo, I'm very excited about Zwo, and I feel that you're even more excited about it. What have you done recently?
Yeah, I did this crazy thing. Every time I talk, I say that, people get, whoa, why did you do that? So I quit my job to work full-time with Zwo. And people might think, well, that's crazy, but actually, I believe a lot in what's happening with Zwo and everything. And also, the worst case scenario is I get a job somewhere else, and so there's nothing to fear about that, you know? And also open source is getting more and more important. So I think people should be very encouraged in working on open source. I think it's a great thing, actually.
I hope then our students do check out
Zwo.
I'm also very excited about it, and I think you did the right thing.
Yes. If you believe in something, you should definitely go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And why Zwo? What's the name? What does it stand for?
Zwo, it's, I was trying to find a short word for the GitHub repo, like 4 letters. Mm-hmm. And then I tried to find small words on Google Translate, like zero, for example, and then Zwo came up, and then it was available. And Zwo is zero in Haitian Creole, which is a form of French.
Okay.
So the correct pronunciation would be something like zéro.
Zwo?
Yeah,
Okay.
because in French it's zéro,
Yeah.
and the Creole version would be zéro. Something like that, I don't know.
That's definitely very interesting. Thank you very much, and
Awesome.
at least I hope our students are interested. I'm definitely very interested in Zwo. I hope to
Yes.
get started as soon as possible.
Yeah, you should.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
having us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, it's amazing.